Hey, I'm Max and I play Ken Burrows in Downstairs Department, and I'm going to take you around and show you what happens before showtime on set. Mark and I are just in the waiting room right now.
Practicing for our scene. I have a lot of long lines in this one, and Ken has got a pretty thick paragraph for himself to cover.
Heading over to the main office, and Nanya is getting her fish makeup ready before the show.
Phone charger.
As usual. And Shirley is doing what Shirley does.
I'm useless.
Soon we're gonna get our lights set up, the camera set up, and I'm gonna go get into costume. Alright, we'll see you soon.
I can't as you laugh.
What's my line?
3, 2, 1.
I also have a toothpaste, toothbrush.
Oh my god!
Do you want the Unicoaster?
The Unicoaster.
Action.
You. No, oh my god. Were you not recording that? Because now it's recording.
I was recording.
Well,
Wait.
now it's recording.
Email from the Erasidex. Damn it, bro, I literally...
The warehouse is located on Winterburn Terrace. So the manufacturing for both
So for several years now, every summer Mark and I have made some sort of TV show or movie, and we knew that this year we wanted to sort of made something that stood out, something a little bit different and more exciting. And a great way to do that is to have more characters, because we've only ever been able to have 2 characters. Around 8 months ago, Ananya and Shirley were at my house and happened to notice a poster from a movie that Mark and I made a couple years ago, and they insisted on watching it, and I showed it to them, and they liked it and they wanted in. So we thought this was a perfect opportunity to add 2 new characters to whatever we were gonna do. Me and Mark were talking and we were thinking, you know, we'll make them a small character, they'll come in a few times. If it's a TV show, they can be in a few episodes or just sort of a smaller character. We started playing all the characters and we realized that it would be great to just have 4 main characters. Our first idea that Mark and I talked about, and then we spoke to Ananya and Shirley about, was 4 friends who work on a cruise ship, and that would have been really cool because we would have been able to play around with the green screen a lot and have a lot of cool stories, but also have regular stories because it's just 4 friends. Then after a lot of planning and talking about that, we sort of realized that that was more green screen than we wanted to use, and it wouldn't have worked so well with sort of what we had and what we wanted to do. So then we started over, we kept talking, started planning some more, and we came up with the idea of 4 very different people working at an office, and just thought it'd be interesting to see sort of how they get along and interact with each other.
So I was interested in this project because I watched some of Max and Mark's previous movies that they made, and I thought it seemed really interesting and it seemed like a lot of fun, and I think they did a pretty good job. So I was like, I want in, and I was looking forward to filming a lot. I find acting fun. And I also got to work the camera sometimes, and I thought that was fun. I was also looking forward to costumes and makeup, especially because my character is very bubbly and colorful, so I got to play around with a lot of colorful makeup, and my costumes were all very colorful as well, so I enjoyed doing that. And then I also liked coming up with the storyline. I thought that was fun. I was just kind of worried about how much time it would take because my summers are always very tight. Like last year, I was working during the day and then I was riding at night, and so I was out of the house from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. So I knew we would have weekends, but I was a little bit worried that we won't finish on time because we don't have much time. I wasn't sure what my plan was for the summer, and Max was working during the day and then I was riding in the evenings, so we mainly did a lot of evenings. It wasn't as time consuming as I thought it was gonna be, but there's a lot more planning that goes into it, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, but it was a good learning experience.
At first, I did not want to do this show. I mean, yeah, it seemed like a good idea. The idea of doing a project seemed cool and new, but it was almost too new. I knew that it required a lot of commitment and dedication, and I've started a lot of projects, like writing scripts or whatever, and I never finish them because one of my biggest problems is commitment. But I talked about it with Ananya for a bit, we discussed it, and yeah, well, I don't regret my decision in joining the cast. I was pretty good friends with Ananya, but I did not know Max and Mark very well. The only reason I kind of knew them was because, well, Mark, I knew him since I was in grade 1, and Max, I only knew him because of Ananya. I think what I was looking forward to the most was definitely the writing, because, well, I'm a writer, I've written a lot of stuff in my life, and it's fun. But I was also very hyped for the filming. Of course, I'm not an actress, but hey, I ended up being the most popular character, so whatever, no big deal.
So as far as starting a production like this, Max and I usually did something we call like a season planner or like a scene planner. It's a big list of all the scenes or stories that we want to tell. And so for this show, it was a list of all the episode names and then kind of just bullet points of how we wanted the story to go from start to finish. Another thing that we kind of had a lot of fun with in this show was coming up with our own character names. We were kind of in Ananya's room one day and we were all on our phones just browsing random name generators. It's actually a funny story. I remember my name, my first name in the show was Josh. It's a pretty normal name. And I came across the last name Satch on one of those websites. And I remember everyone's first reaction was sort of just like, ew.
When Mark first mentioned that he liked the name Josh Satch, my first reaction was, that's disgusting.
I mean, Satch is supposed to be a pretty kind of gross, not very likable, not the most likable character in the show anyways. But yeah, name worked well for him, so that's great. When we started this, we really didn't have too much time because school was still in session, the lockdown hadn't begun yet, everything was sort of normal. So the first thing we did to kind of write the episodes and get into it, we usually got together on Saturday afternoons, every weekend in Max's basement. We sat on a couch, brought some snacks, just kind of relaxed and wrote, bounced ideas off each other, just in the regular brainstorming sort of thing. For example, sometimes we just have like an amazing idea for something at school, and I remember we just have to like wait to the break and then just go, and then the locker bays we just like tell our friends what idea we had. We also had like a group chat on Instagram and WhatsApp, except the WhatsApp one's kind of dead, but rip. And as far as the episode names go, we're actually pretty proud of them. I mean, they're actually pretty interesting, and that's why we kind of have our title like episode 1, and then we have whatever is the name of the episode, just so, you kind of get a little hint to what it's about.
We actually had a pretty interesting way of writing this show. So I know for a bunch of the episodes, especially episode 1, whoever wanted to could write the episode. Everybody would write their own if they wanted to. So I know for episode 1, which was the pilot, Mark and I both wrote our own version of episode 1. So we looked at the season planner and saw what has to happen in that episode, and then we both wrote our own. So we had 2 different versions of episode 1, and then we got together on the weekend and we went through both of them. We read through both of them completely, and we took the best scenes from both, and we added some scenes and took out some scenes. For the episodes that we didn't do that for, generally somebody just took the lead. So somebody either just wrote the episode and then we would get together on the weekend and talk about it and add things and take things out and add funny lines, or somebody would start writing it and everybody would just sort of go along with it and add on. That's pretty much how the writing worked.
When the lockdown began, we knew things were going to get tough. We had a social distance, so we couldn't see each other. We had to stay at home, and we had to do script read-throughs through video call on Instagram. You'd probably think that would be very tough and frustrating. It was. We ran into a lot of technical problems. I remember there was this one actress in our group. I'm not saying her name, and it's not me. There's this one actress who had really bad internet connection. Like, she would say her lines 30 seconds earlier because her internet was lagging so much. And that still didn't even work out because, well, she had to estimate when her line was 30 seconds earlier, and it was just this whole thing. It got really frustrating. We even tried to make the video calls more fun, like doing, virtual games like Spyfall, and even that was not as fun as I intended it to be. As the months went on, our parents decided to give us permission to see each other in Max's backyard to do the read-throughs.
I think like 90% of the funny jokes were probably added in the editing stage of the whole thing. Because after we spent 2 months on writing and gave out all the scripts, and because of all the time we had like months and months of just reading through it because of the lockdown. We were FaceTiming every day, reading through 2 episodes. Because of that, we made them so much better. If you look through any of our books, you'll see there's lots of pencil and pen scribbles of what to say, what not to say, extra jokes to write in, little actions to do, and that honestly made our show like way funnier than it was at first. So I guess basically the point I'm trying to make here is that reading through it was like one of the best things that could have possibly happened to us, because from the amount of times we read it over, we spotted like every little inconsistency in the script, every little scene that was like, wait, why were they there? Didn't they just, little stuff like that we could fix before filming it that just made our life so much easier. And we didn't really have to spend too much time on memorizing the actual script because it had been drilled into our heads so hard that we basically like knew every scene and every line.
So coming up with costumes was a little hard given the whole pandemic and lockdown. Max sent me a bunch of photos of what he had. As the lockdown slowly released, I went to Shirley's house and I looked at like all of her clothes. We took all of her clothes out on the bed and I like looked at all of her black clothes, all of her dark clothes, because Dan is a very dark character. For Faith, she's a very bubbly character, so we know her clothes were going to be very bright and colorful. And for Josh, his clothes are going to be fairly like plain. So I told him that he should have like 4 or 5 shirts that he wears on repeat. And so he had, I think, 4 that he just kept wearing throughout the whole show. He just kept switching them, and he had 1 tie. Ken wore a lot of plaid shirts because I thought that fit his personality, because he's like not very smart, but he's still supposed to be the boss and professional. So for coming up with costumes for every episode or every day in each episode, for Faith, what I did this at like 11 o'clock at night because I was just in the mood. I took out all of my bright clothes and I went through the script and I looked at the first line Faith said to try and figure out how she would be feeling in the morning when she was picking her outfit. And based on that, I just kind of like chose what outfit she would wear what day. And I think she only had 2 outfits that she repeated. The rest, like, she has something different every day. She starts out really professional, but then she meets Ken and she meets Josh and she realizes it's not as professional as a place as she thought. So slowly throughout the show, her costumes become like more and more casual, still like work appropriate, but they became less formal. For Diane, I didn't plan every single day with her, but I gave her a bit of an idea, like this might be an outfit that Diane would wear on such a day. This might be an outfit that Diane might wear on this kind of day. Okay, so for the Halloween episode, Josh didn't have a costume, so it didn't really matter for him. Ken was Dracula, so he just put some hair gel. So Shirley was actually Red Riding Hood, except like gone wrong or gone dead or something. So she had already had a costume which would have worked for the doll, and then I did her makeup. Faith's costume was the most complicated to come up with. She was supposed to be a fish queen, and I wasn't totally sure how I was gonna do it, so like I had to like physically draw on my scales with a brown eyeliner.
In terms of getting into character, it actually wasn't that hard considering the process that we all went through. For me, getting to know Diane, it was mostly through writing and through the script, because as, I was writing out the storyline, I get to understand my character on a more deeper level when we read through the scripts as well. I got used to being Diane and getting into the right mindset for Diane. I'm sure everybody had different methods of getting into their character. I took the lead for writing 2, 5, and 7. We ran into a lot of problems along the way when we were writing. At first, fun fact, in episode 2, the basement was supposed to collapse. We decided not to do that because, it would be difficult and we didn't think it would really work out in terms of the story.
If I had to decide who broke character the most, I would say it was probably Ananya.
Ananya.
Well, it was me. A lot.
And then me, and then Mark, and then Shirley. Shirley broke character like twice in the 8 episodes that we filmed, somehow. There were a lot of scenes that were really hard to film. Mainly every Faith and Ken scene was really difficult. If it was a short Faith and Ken scene, it probably took us about 40 minutes to film, just because we couldn't get through it without laughing. There were some scenes that we like ruined so many times that we weren't even sure how Mark was gonna put them together. Like, it was, the scenes were in like so many little pieces because we kept laughing that we were thinking like, how is he gonna turn this into one scene? The one off the top of my head would be Faith and Ken. It was in episode 4, Something Fishy, when Faith brought her fish to work. It was when she first brings in Faith Jr., her fish, and Ken is asking, why is it there? And just sort of asking, like, you know, what's going on? We could not get through that scene. Should have been one of the easiest scenes, and it was one of the hardest scenes to film, I think. There's one point where you can actually see Faith drops the eraser into the fishbowl. That was one of the hardest parts to keep a straight face, but then when she does that, if you watch carefully, you can see her sort of look away, so you don't see her laughing, and that was pretty funny.
So for filming, we had the camera on a tripod and we had someone behind it always moving it. We filmed it in a very fluid style, so it wasn't just sitting there and it wasn't just like still. We always, or at least we tried to have someone play with the zoom or move it around from side to side for every scene. We also got Mark's younger brother to help with that for scenes where all 4 of us were in it. Otherwise, whoever was not in the scene would usually be in the camera. We also had this microphone on a boom pole. If someone couldn't hold it, then we had it on a stand. We also tried to come up sometimes with more creative angles. For example, in episode 3, there's one between Ken's computer and the wall, showing like Faith and Ken looking at some weird painting. And then we also tried to get angles of everybody. Usually in the office, we'd get 3 angles, one of Faith and Diane, one of Ken, and then one of Josh. Sometimes because Josh was on the other side of the room, it looked like he was in a different room. So I know Mark did some editing things to make it seem like more obvious that he was in the same room. And then in Ken's office, we always had 2 angles, one facing Ken and then one on the other side facing whoever's talking to Ken.
Editing the whole thing was, it was fun, but it was kind of pretty repetitive. Most of it was just, you know, getting all the footage from the camera, putting it onto my computer, and then after I'd actually gotten all the footage onto my computer, I had to look at all of it, make sure, you know, take out all the bad parts, because there's about an hour of footage per episode, and then I have to cut that down. And then after I'd done that, which usually took me about a day, we'd meet up with the rest of the cast, and they would tell me their suggestions on which parts to kind of keep, which parts to leave on for longer, whose reactions to show, just stuff like that made the episodes, that sometimes made a huge difference in whether a joke was a hit or a miss. It was good that we got to edit it that much. I think probably the most annoying part of editing the whole show was when I'd have all the footage on my computer, I was almost finished editing the whole episode, and then I'd realize that, you know, the microphone cut out or something else didn't work, and that was just like the most destroying feeling. We have like a week to film an episode, and if we weren't on top of things, we'd already be running late. We'd start filming an episode usually on a Saturday, and it would be towards the end of the week where I was finishing editing it. Then when you realize on like a Friday night or a Thursday night that we don't have a scene, we'd have to go back to Max's basement, bring everything back, get people back there with costumes and everything, and then reshoot the thing, and then get it back onto my computer and edit it again, which was a long, long process. But we got through it, so that's good. There's actually one scene, I forget which episode it's in, but Ken hands me the phone from his desk, and then the shot of me taking it was actually filmed like a week later. There's a couple other times. There's one in the Halloween episode. I'm sure there's other ones, but it's cool how we used takes that were filmed like under very different circumstances, but we, I think, blended them pretty well in the end result. Another fun thing to do was doing the green screen scenes. I think most of them we did, well, some of them were fun and some of them were not so much, because the ones we did in the car in my garage were awful just because it was just hot and it was late at night, everyone was tired, plus there's like no space in the car with the like piping hot light that we had to like just like put in everyone's face. It was just not a great, you know, time to be alive. But the scenes that we did in my basement were honestly really fun. We had way more space. We had the big green screen, like the whole wall behind us. And I mean, the only really downside to it is that you have no idea where you are, like in space at all. It's just kind of a green wall. And so you don't know what to interact with, like what's where to look. I think the most fun scene we did was when we look up, I think Ananya and I look up at the air ducts in episode 8 when we escape. And that was actually, we were just like lying down on like a little box, like a trampoline that we put down there, and we lay down and we just looked up like that.
Our weeks were pretty tightly packed. We were always one episode ahead of what you were seeing. So the production of one episode took 2 weeks. So it'd be 1 week of filming around, and then around 1 week of editing. For example, when episode 4 premiered, we had just finished filming episode 5 and are starting to film episode 6. So generally, if you're seeing episode 4, that day we probably started filming episode 6. So we would spend the week filming an episode, and then on the Thursday night, usually after a day of filming, on the Thursday night, we would watch the rough cut of the episode from the week before. So the one that Mark had put together, we would watch it and we'd all have a whiteboard and write down all of our little ideas as he went through. So it would be just little things like cut the scene earlier, put another transition here, show Ken for longer, make sure to show Ken's daily motivation, add like an outside of the building transition, all little things like that. And then Mark would take all of our ideas, write them all down, take them home, do what he could with them. And then Friday night, we would watch the more final version of it, give our sort of final thoughts, final ideas. He'd take it home again, finalize it, and then upload it so it was ready to premiere Saturday night at 8. And we pretty much were able to stick to that schedule for the whole time. Filming definitely got difficult when we had a lot of other things to do. For example, I'd be working during the day till about 4, and then Nanya was busy at 4. And so there were a lot of days where it was late night filming. Often we would start at around 7:30. We'd get together at 7:30, and it always took about 45 minutes to actually start filming from the time we get together. And there was definitely some late nights. But it was really fun, and we always got the episodes out on time, so.
Filming the last episode was definitely very sad for all of us. Well, most of us at least. I was definitely very sad because coming to Max's basement, doing makeup every day, it kind of became routine for me. So yeah, it was kind of hard, leaving all of that and actually doing normal stuff back at home. Filming went by quickly at some points. We did manage to get an episode done a week, which is great. But there were a lot of times where filming was very stressful, depending on maybe the time of day, or maybe the location, or maybe the people are kind of frustrating. Ananya and I had to get used to Mark and Max teasing every day, so that was something that I learned. Yeah.
I've had such a great time with this whole, doing this whole show, and it's sad that it has to be over, but it's been such a great experience right from the beginning. It's been a great 7 months, and I'm not sure what else I would have spent all my time with, so hopefully we can do something just as much fun next year. I've had such a great time with my friends and castmates, and thank you to everybody who watched it from the beginning and joined us on this journey.
Overall, it was a really fun experience. I'm looking forward to doing something again next year, and I'm glad you all enjoyed it.
Even though I had my doubts at the beginning, I don't regret my decision in joining the show. I'm very grateful, and I did learn a lot of things from this experience. And yeah, hopefully you will be seeing more of me in the future.
Honestly, this whole project has been pretty fun. It's actually crazy how if you look back to stuff that Max and I did back in the day, I'm not going to name any names, but there have been some older movies where, stuff may have not gone so well. But even if you go back to episode 1 and compare it to episode 8, there's a big, I wouldn't say a huge gap, but there's a big difference in the overall quality of the whole thing. So yeah, we've definitely learned a lot from this whole thing, and I think just having Ananya and Shirley here to help us with it was honestly one of the best things that could have happened for this show. Let's hope we get renewed, but you never know. We'll see what the future holds, so hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon.
Thanks for watching Downstairs Department.
Thank you for watching Downstairs Department.
Thanks for watching Downstairs Department.